Have you noticed it? Across workplaces, friendships, families, and everyday conversations, spiritually awake Christians are quietly slipping into the background. They aren't angry. They aren't discouraged. They aren't losing faith. They are simply losing interest in anything that dims the voice of God. What once felt familiar now feels foreign. What once entertained them now feels heavy. And without announcing it, without explaining it, they begin to withdraw from the noise that once shaped their days. People around them whisper that they've grown distant, cold, or disconnected. Truth is far deeper. God is pulling them away from a world addicted to distraction. Their disappearance is not avoidance. It is alignment. The soul that awakens cannot remain where it once slept. And as God removes the blindfold from their spirit, they begin to crave silence, depth, and truth more than applause, activity, or belonging. The illusion society calls living. When a believer truly awakens, the world around them begins to look strangely artificial. What once appeared vibrant now reveals its emptiness. Modern life is built on polished surfaces, smiling photos hiding exhaustion, loud gatherings masking loneliness, endless entertainment covering inner voids. Society teaches people to perform happiness instead of pursuing wholeness, to chase validation instead of cultivating identity, to stay busy enough to avoid hearing their own soul. But the awakened Christian sees through this illusion. They notice how people laugh without joy, achieve without peace, and connect without depth. They sense how conversations revolve around everything except what truly matters. And the more they see beneath the surface, the harder it becomes to participate in the performance. Their spirit quietly rejects the artificial. They no longer wish to blend in with a world pretending to be alive, while spiritually withering within. When the Holy Spirit removes the blindfold, there comes a moment in every awakened believer's journey when the Holy Spirit gently removes the blindfold they didn't even know they were wearing. Suddenly, what once felt harmless now feels spiritually heavy. What once blended into the background now stands out with piercing clarity. Jokes that once made them laugh now wound their spirit. Entertainment that once numbed them now exposes its emptiness. Environments that once energized them now feel misaligned with who they are becoming. This unveiling is not dramatic, it's internal, but its impact is profound. The believer realizes that the world celebrates shadows painted to look like light. They recognize how easily the prophet soul can be lulled into complacency by noise disguised as joy. And once they see the truth behind the illusion, they can no longer return to spiritual sleep. The awakened heart begins longing for purity, truth, and the unmistakable voice of God. Why the awakened quietly withdraw? When God awakens a believer, He doesn't command them to argue with the world or fight for attention. Instead, He draws them into silence. The awakened don't withdraw out of pride or rejection. They withdraw because their spirit no longer fits the frequency of the environments they once tolerated. Conversations that tear others down now feel painful. Rooms filled with competition, ego, or gossip feel spiritually suffocating. Even harmless activities begin to feel like distractions from a deeper calling. So they step back not because they dislike people, but because they love God more than noise. Their withdrawal is a response to clarity. Once the Spirit exposes the emptiness behind certain patterns, the soul can no longer pretend it doesn't see. What looks like distance to others is actually protection. The awakened believer withdraws not to hide, but to stay aligned with the presence shaping their inner world, choosing God's awareness over belonging. Every awakened Christian eventually reaches a crossroads. Continue fitting into the world's patterns, or surrender fully to God's voice. This choice is rarely easy. Belonging feels comfortable, familiar, predictable. Obedience, however, often requires sacrifice, sacrificing approval, familiar friendships, and the sense of being understood. The awakened soon realize that following the Holy Spirit almost always means stepping away from those who remain spiritually asleep. This shift can feel painful. It hurts when friends say, "You're different now." It hurts when family misinterprets your silence. It hurts when you no longer feel at home in circles you once cherished. But beneath the discomfort lies a deeper truth. Obeying God may cost you something, but disobeying Him costs your soul. So the awakened choose God's awareness over comfort, purpose over belonging. And in that choice, they begin to walk a path only the awakened can understand. The sacred solitude God leads them into. When God sets a believer apart, He introduces them to a kind of solitude the world cannot comprehend. It is not the loneliness of abandonment, it is the solitude of transformation. The awakened Christian begins seeking presence over company, prayer over conversation, stillness over stimulation. Their soul starts to crave the quiet spaces where God's voice becomes unmistakably clear. In this sacred solitude, distractions fall away. The heart softens, the mind settles, the spirit becomes receptive. What once felt like emptiness now feels like invitation. An invitation to rediscover identity without performance, faith without noise, and purpose without pressure. Even Jesus withdrew to lonely places to pray, showing that silence is not a retreat from purpose, but preparation for it. In true solitude, the awakened learn that they do not need an audience to be valuable. They need alignment to be whole. The phase of holy retreat. Some call it isolation, but heaven calls it refinement. When the posset, awakened, enter this holy retreat, God begins revealing what no crowded room could ever teach them. Masks fall away. Inner noise becomes visible. Old wounds rise to the surface, not to shame them, but to heal them. In this season, God strips away everything artificial so He can restore everything authentic. This retreat exposes the voices they once followed without questioning the pressure to please, the fear of rejection, the craving for approval. One by one, these attachments lose their power. The awakened begin to see themselves as God sees them. Loved without performing, valued without proving, chosen without competition. The world may label this season withdrawal, but heaven knows it as rebuilding. In this holy retreat, God is not hiding them. He is shaping them into the version of themselves that their purpose will require. The return with authenticity. When the season of refinement begins to settle, something remarkable happens within the awakened believer. They return, yet not as the person who disappeared. They come back with a quieter spirit but a stronger presence, with fewer words but deeper truth, with less noise but more authority. They no longer seek validation because they finally understand where their value comes from. They no longer defend their transformation because they recognize that not everyone is meant to understand it. Their authenticity becomes its own message. Their peace becomes its own testimony. Without striving, without explaining, without forcing, their life starts to reflect the one who reshaped them in the secret place. Some people feel unsettled by their new clarity, while others feel drawn to it. But the awakened no longer adjust themselves to fit expectations. They simply walk in who God made them to. Be unfiltered, unmasked, and aligned with purpose. The purpose behind the retreat. God never pulls someone into solitude without intention. The world measures significance by visibility, but the kingdom measures it by obedience. In the hidden season, God does work that cannot be done in public. He repairs vision, uproots false motives, and strengthens the foundation of the believer's identity. The retreat is the workshop where God restores clarity, sharpens discernment, and deepens spiritual maturity. This is why the awakened no longer chase attention. They've tasted something the world cannot offer. They've learned that influence without depth collapses, but influence built on obedience endures. When they return from this season, they no longer live to satisfy expectations. They live to fulfill purpose. Their actions become quieter but more intentional. Their decisions fewer but more meaningful. The retreat isn't a pause in their journey, it's the molding of the vessel God intends to use powerfully. The call to disappear for a season. There comes a moment when God whispers a command that few understand. Disappear for a while. Not to punish, but to protect what He is growing within you. He turns down the noise, closes old doors, and draws you beneath His shadow. At first it feels like being overlooked, forgotten, or left behind, but heaven sees it differently. You are not being hidden from purpose. You are being hidden for purpose. Just as a seed must be buried before it can rise, the awakened believer must enter this sacred obscurity before stepping into their next assignment. The world may assume you are fading, but God is refining. He shields what is still forming, guards the roots still taking hold, and prepares you for a return marked by clarity, strength, and unshakable identity. Disappearing is not losing yourself. It is finding the version of you that only God can reveal.